Hello and welcome. So, I've been looking into the blue star Kachina. Definitely came across it before. I'm pretty sure I even interpreted it to be the doom shape, but the myth, supposedly, according to Hopi legend, as reported by Frank Waters, which has been criticized as the myth cannot be found before 1963. He concludes it's probably a late 20th century invention, but we can just consider it on its merits, and it's pretty good sounding. Like it checks out beyond Hopi's. In Dakota, I found some stuff. Other places where it seems relevant. So the thing is it's said to be like the final sign is the return. Said to be the ninth and final sign before the day of purification, described as an apocalypse or a world engulfing cataclysm that will lead to the destruction of the world. So if we look at the Colburn Bible, not Wikipedia, and PDF. There, if we go here and search for maybe Doom Shape. Chapter 5. The Doom Shape called the Destroyer in Egypt. So I've talked about this a bunch. I won't go into too much detail right now. Let's go to Mount Gurnar maybe. Where is it? Doom Shape track. Remove this way. Sat here, induced current here, shaped a tortoise here with feet here during the slow phase, and then when it got to here, it entered a phase of rapid expansion of the earth when the storm moved slowly here, but then from here to here, it pretty much was instantaneous, relatively, seemingly, just with much higher currents involved, probably. Because it's surfacing here where it wasn't really surfacing, it was more so interacting below the surface over here, and the currents were flowing below the surface, but here they actually surfaced from the slit in the neck here. From this slit in the neck here. So that's part of my interpretation that will come into relevance at some point in this video. This is kind of not true, but that's okay. Essentially, so this is the track of the Doom Shape as caused by the attack on ancient Dwarka as written in Hinduism. So this is Egyptian mythology, and then Hinduism talks about Dwarka and the vortex weapon and the fierce winds that emerge after Dwarka is attacked by King Sawa or something like. But so it's described more so here. The doom shape called the Destroyer in Egypt was seen in all the land's whereabouts. In color it was bright and fiery, in appearance changing and unstable. It twisted about itself like a coil, like water bubbling into a pool from an underground supply, and all men agree it was a most fearsome sight. It was not a great comet or a lucent star, being more like a fiery body of flame. Its movements on high were slow. Below it swirled in the manner of smoke, and it remained close to the sun whose face it hid. There was a bloody redness about it which changed as it passed along its course. It caused death and destruction in its rising and setting. This was the aspect, if we go on, aspect of the doom shape called the Destroyer. when it appeared in days long gone by in olden times. It is thus described in the old records, few of which remain. It is said that when it appears in the heavens above, earth splits open from the heat, like a nut roasted before the fire. Then flames shoot up through the surface and leap about like fiery fiends upon black blood. The moisture inside the land is all dried up. The pastures and cultivated places are consumed in flames, and they and all trees become white ashes. The doom shape is like a circling ball of flame which scatters small fiery offspring in its train. It covers about a fifth part of the sky and sends wreathing snake-like fingers down to the earth. Before it, the sky appears frightened, and it breaks up and scatters away. Midday is no brighter than night. It spawns a host of terrible things. These are things said of the destroyer in the old records. Read them with a solemn heart, knowing that the doom shape has its appointed time and will return. It would be foolish to let them go unheeded. Now men say such things are not destined for our days. May the great God above grant that this be so. But come, the day surely will, and in accordance with his nature, man will be unprepared. So that's the one of that goes on talking about it still, at least in chapter 6, possibly 7. I won't read it. Nope, not 7. But very reminiscent of the blue star. The blue star Kachina is said to be the ninth and final sign before the day of purification, describes as an apocalypse or a world engulfing cataclysm that will lead to the destruction of the earth. So if we consider that the blue star Kachina of a Hopi mythology, according to Frank Waters, which I cannot find reference to in this Native American legends from this website, which seems pretty thorough on Hopi legends, did not have the blue star at all. It was a little surprising, but and again, maybe it is really only mentioned verbally, and he happened to be told about it because it was meant to be like that, and it's not so like publicly spoken of. I don't know. Its details seem worthy of consideration, so I kind of look at it as more than likely based in someone telling him, and like the interpretation is off. It doesn't. You will hear of a dwelling place in the heavens above the earth that shall fall with a great crash. It will appear as a blue star very soon after this. The ceremonies of my people will cease. Hopi legend. Marking the end of all Hopi rituals is reflected in Walter's book. Okay. So the point is, this blue star, I started looking around. My interpretation, if you've followed my work before, is that the South Atlantic anomaly is the doom shape that has since moved over here. And now it's going, in my interpretation, above the secondary mantle puncture hole, where it moved from the primary mantle puncture hole around India and Pakistan, but around the doom-shaped track that we were just looking at, to now flowing basically over here. And at this point, it's starting to even create a secondary system off of it, which is called the South Atlantic anomaly. But the thing is, as it approaches the secondary mantle puncture hole that was formed here, like, it's basically moving to a pole. This is a pole, and this is a pole. These two systems functionally are two poles that are not the present poles, but are the future poles of the earth. And it's moving there. energetically as part of the process of the Earth's poles shifting, while over here the North and the South Pole are converging on this location. According to me, of course. And other people that generally say it's converging in this area. They don't say this location. I'm like, it's this location, dudes. But then the part of the process is the currents going on over here that are basically swirling in the ammonite of Australia, which I talk about in several places, but maybe if we just go animals of the earth, Australian ammonite. Here, this ammonite is being induced by currents colliding here, one flowing up this way, one flowing over this way, and one flowing this way at the least, and maybe another holding this boundary. I'm not completely certain on every detail because it's a work in progress, but so there's that ammonite going on there. Notably in the same region, Australia, we've talked about Odin's eyes, where Odin is said to be missing an eye. Well, Australia has a nucleus above the ammonite's final center. This here is a final chamber. It is the nucleus of Australia, but over here there's another eyeball that's since just been like removed. So it's Odin is missing an eye, as we've talked about. And then in this region there's the ravens. So there's these ravens. Odin's ravens. Okay. Of note also the panther with a head generally here, a back generally here, some feet out here. This one's probably the worst looking compared to once I started drawing based off of these teeth. Notice the nostril here, the nose, the brit, just all of it. The shape, start filling it in, and then we get the panther. Then added some more detail again, more panther-y with some whiskers even, as well as that one. And then the pink panther by adding Australia as the top hat. Also, I found this picture, which may or may not be completely relevant or valid. I don't know. It seems possible that these features are present generally around here. I kind of forced it. Like this one, I know. This one kind of looks generally there, but like this, and like I kind of forced these, man. Enough where it's like, and then like the hand is not missing, is not really present. Maybe it's upside down, but still. Although at that point the fingers maybe go really far down, but then the thumb is very near if this is the crown. Anyway, snakes over here, the stag 2, stag 3, Rudolph, trilobite, whatever this is. Okay, I'm talking about this because when this doom shape arrives over here as the blue star, as the blue star, Kachina, let's just go to it, actually. In short, the blue star Kachina, maybe I should, I'll come back to it. I'll come back to what I was just getting at. Okay, let's talk more about the blue star. I watched a video, maybe I can find it, YouTube, history, we're looking for a Dakota chief. This guy, no. No. His name was like Wandy or something. There it is. This guy. This video. He says, quote, "We come from the Blue Star people." Blue Star. So if the Doom shape is the Blue Star, Kachina, returning its final sign before the day of purification when this object returns. If it is that object, then it sounds to me when he says, "We come from the Blue Star people," that they knew that they were like from the people who actually participated. Like maybe their king was King Salwa, whatever it is, I can't remember. King Salwa. Yeah. Shalva. He's the Salwa kingdom. Maybe they're from the Salwa kingdom, I guess is what I'm getting at. Who then attacked ancient Dwarka with this weapon that then induced the Doom shape. And so they know, like, we're from that people and understand it. Like, it's not like they're just like, we're the worst. Like, they more so understand its role in the things to be like, we are the Blue Star people. That's my interpretation of it when he mentioned that. And then someone dreamt to make a drum, and then they made the drum and sat down to sing a song. They were shy beforehand, but the drum like helped them sing, and they sang. And apparently, so the songs came from like down above, if you will, in the lyrics where like things were spoken. He didn't really get into what it was. I just took note of that. Some of these things, I've some notes here from this video that I just thought were interesting. And then the women, one of the women had a vision of a star, a blue star, and then she named her daughter Star Woman. And the daughter then began to make star blankets, blue stars. So it's very central to the Dakota. I believe this guy's Dakota. He's Dakota. If we go, and he's Dakotan or whatever the term is. So from the Dakota, like, tradition, they've since made these blankets and used them. One of the women had that vision, and then she started making blankets, and then other women participated, and women gathered to make these blankets, starting from the Blue Star Dream. But then he said women are so talented that many women had visions. He to me it's kind of like the way sports are, like men. Just women cannot compete with men in sports as they are today, but like the same is probably true. Men cannot compete with women in like a totally different realm, like dreams being one of them. So women having a natural inclination towards the like things that enable dreams more so than men have that natural inclination. And so he literally says women are so talented that they had visions, like being so talented, which to me really says that. It's really saying that. He's getting at this like intrinsicness of a balance that's there. Like maybe men are more physically able in terms of things like sports, but like women are more mentally able in ways like visions and just certain nuances. Anyway, The star blankets were used in funerals. Some people call it heaven. Oh, yeah, the blue star. He says, some people call it heaven. We call it the windy place. And he named the specific name in Dakotan language, which I didn't bother to even try to write, but he translated it as the windy place. Okay, everything else is more so about the blanket. But so there's that going on. There's the windy place. The blue star is the windy place, which is interesting, but like especially in view of the doom shape, but it's not like such a strong connection to be that like whoa. So then anyway, I was like, I would like to make a video on the blue star Kachina, but I feel like I've talked about it in the past. And I just don't know what I've said about it in the past, so I literally went to my channel. I searched through my videos. And I ended up going like blue. Okay, I don't have any videos with blue in it. And a star. None of these related. Except that boss Oriana. Oh, no big deal. Maybe I should play that. Let's play that. You guys gotta know how fire this Oriana all was. It's been a long time. People are like, what the Where am I? Where am I? Oh, here I'm nothing but gravy. Oh, that's not it. See this ball? Put it in a location and the ultimate spell pulls everyone in. So, like, the more people surrounding, the better. Okay. Notice everyone's getting kind of low. Everyone's kind of stacked, so it's a pretty exciting moment. Just kind of throw it there. It's hanging out. Oh, shit's going on. Oh. Oh, they killed my teammate. How dare they? Oh, shit. Very important. Okay. Oh, I messed it up though. Anyway, ended up searching for Hopi, and I was like, oh, I made a video a month ago. I forgot about this. It's probably all about the blue star too. Fortunately, it wasn't about the blue star, but it was about things in this list. And initially, I didn't see this one. Notice I read this one, Crow. So I just talking about the Crow. Crow brings daylight. That's interesting. That's also Eskimo. Inuit, probably. Then I noticed this one. The raven brought light to the world. How raven brought light to the world. Real quick before I go into this, let's go to Earth's undercurrents. Okay, right here. So we got these currents flowing into Australia, converging on Australia, underneath Australia, creating this nucleus and shell, which then gets ammonited by a penetrating current that then shapes it, and then this sphere flows out, goes out this way, and then over here, where it then runs into resistance against South America and starts to basically have a figure-8 field and then jet streams flowing away from it due to this current being just so intense that then essentially induces all this cool stuff going on here. I think we've covered enough details to go back to what we're looking at now. I'll just leave that open. Okay. According to a Hades story, in the beginning the world was in total darkness. The raven had existed from the beginning of time, was tired of groping about and bumping into things in the dark. Eventually, the raven came upon the home of an old man who lived alone with his daughter. Old man makes me think immediately of Odin. So, raven, and just this concept of Odin being possibly the old man. Through his slyness, the raven learned that the old man had a great treasure. This was all the light in the universe, contained in a tiny box concealed within many boxes. Tiny box concealed within many boxes gives me the impression of the handbag of the gods kind of thing. Like it makes me think of the handbag of the gods. Which, by the way, is right here. The handbag. So there's this handbag. And underneath the crust, Hawaii is forming as a sphere that is going to be ejected out of it and into this way. At once the raven vowed to steal the light. He thought and finally came up with a plan. He waited until the old man's daughter came to the river to gather water. Then the raven changed himself into a single hemlock needle, and dropped himself into the river just as the girl was dipping her water basket into the river. As she drank from the basket, she swallowed the needle. It slipped and slithered down into her warm belly, where the raven transformed himself again, this time into a tiny human. After sleeping and growing there for a very long time, at last the raven emerged into the world once more, this time as a human infant. This part of it, I don't have much to say on it in terms of the transforming and the female, the daughter. I was just thinking as I was reading what parallels there might be. At last the raven emerged into the world once more, this time as a human infant. Even though he had a rather strange appearance, the raven's grandfather loved him, but the old man threatened dire punishment if he ever touched the precious treasure box. Nonetheless, the raven child begged and begged to be allowed to hold the light just for a moment. In time, the old man yielded and lifted from the box a warm and glowing sphere, which he threw to his grandson. Crazy. Sphere. Getting like, boop, pushed up this way and then over. Like it was thrown. Begged and begged to be allowed to hold the light just for a moment. In time, the old man yielded and lifted from the box, which he threw to his grandson. As the light was moving toward him, the human child transformed into a gigantic black shadowy bird form, wings spread ready for flight and beak open in anticipation. As the beautiful ball of light reached him, the raven captured it in his beak. Moving his powerful wings, he burst through the smoke hole in the roof of the house and escaped into the darkness with his stolen treasure. And that is how light came into the universe. So, I was just thinking, let's go back to the ravens. Like that ball goes this way. It basically goes through here down to the feet. So it's not in the beak in this instance. It maybe goes through the beak, and it probably participates, like as the sphere comes out, it probably participates in the overall outcome of this region's shape. So like transforming it into a raven. It's kind of my thoughts, where it wasn't really transformed yet into a raven until maybe the sphere passed through. At which point it began to open up this space enough to create the panther and the raven out of it. But then the sphere continues over this way. Decayed nucleus producing this decay product of the sphere, spherical decay product released from the nucleus. And then it passes through that region, through the feet of the raven over here. So let's see. This is directly adjacent. Maybe let's go Earth. Adjacent to Fiji is this location. So we're just seeing how far it got away from the raven. Right here. This location is where, is where the ball goes, the sphere. Ball of material moved in the currents. It flows to just past Fiji. So, like, I believe I drew the raven's feet. Maybe these, or I'm not sure. I think it was here, actually. But maybe down here also could be drawn as the feet. Like, especially that looks kind of generally that way with some offshoots. I don't know. Just thinking in relationship to something else. Let's look at this image again. I didn't really leave room to look at what's below it very well. This raven also is right here. Okay, let's read this other legend then. So there's another one that's crow brings daylight. So it's raven, crow, a little different, generally the same. Also, like, in its relationship to Odin, Raven's Great Adventure. Maybe we can check that one out. But a long time ago, when the world was first born, this is very much like the other one, so it makes me think it's generally talking about the same thing. When the world was first born, it was always dark in the north where the Inuit people lived. They thought it was dark all over the world until an old crow told them about daylight and how he had seen it on his long journeys. The more they heard about daylight, the more the people wanted it. We could hunt further and for longer, they said. We could see the polar bears coming and run before they attack us. The people begged the crow to go and bring them daylight, but he didn't want to. It's a long way, and I'm too old to fly that far. He said, but the people begged until he finally agreed to go. He flapped his wings. Oh my God. He flapped his wings and launched into the dark sky towards the east. He flew for a long time until his wings were tired. So the east doesn't really fit with what I'm thinking about right now. Generally, what I'm thinking about is that Australia, Papua New Guinea was attached over here, but it also was like, it used to be up here, I believe, where Australia was, like Papua New Guinea was up this way, and then it moved, reattached down here, and then it moved again over here, and so it had to move pretty far, Australia, so like the crow here moved pretty far. Okay. Flapped his wings and launched into the dark sky towards the east. He flew. He was about to turn back when he saw the dim glow of daylight in the distance. At last there is daylight, said the tired crow. As he flew towards the dim light, It became brighter and brighter until the whole sky was bright and he could see for miles. The exhausted bird landed in a tree near a village, wanting to rest. It was very cold. A daughter of the chief came to the nearby river. As she dipped her bucket in the icy water, Crow turned himself into a speck of dust and drifted down onto her fur cloak. When she walked back to her father's snow lodge, she carried him with her. Inside the snow lodge, it was warm and bright. The girl took off her cloak, and the speck of dust drifted towards the chief's grandson, who was playing on the lodge floor. It floated into the child's ear, and he started to cry. "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" asked the chief, who was sitting at the fire. "Tell him you want to play with a ball of daylight," whispered the dust. The chief wanted his favorite grandson to be happy, and told his daughter to fetch the box of daylight balls. When she opened it for him, he took out a small ball, wrapped a string around it, and gave it to his grandson. The speck of dust scratched the child's ear again, making him cry. "What's wrong, child?" asked the chief. "Tell him you want to play outside," whispered the crow. The child did so, and the chief and his daughter took him out into the snow. As soon as they left the snow lodge, the speck of dust turned back into Crow again. He put out his claws rather than beak, grasped the string rather than the ball itself, and flew into the sky, heading west. Finally, he reached the land of the Inuit again, and when he let go of the string, the ball dropped to the ground and shattered into tiny pieces. Light went into every home, and the darkness left the sky. All the people came from their houses. "We can see for miles. Look how blue the sky is, and the mountains in the distance. We couldn't see them before." They thanked Crow for bringing daylight to their land. He shook his beak. "I could only carry one small ball of daylight, and it'll need to gain its strength from time to time. So you'll only have daylight for half the year." The people said, "But we're happy to have daylight for half the year. Before you brought the ball to us, it was dark all the time. And so that is why in the land of Inuit in the far north, it is dark for one half of the year and light the other." The people never forgot it was Crow who brought them the gift of daylight, and they take care never to hurt him in case he decides to take it back. So it's interesting, like I was saying, that Papua New Guinea kind of was up here, and then it moved over here to relatively east. I mean, it's not totally to the east, maybe on the expanding Earth. It might have been more so east, although more so south than east, even though, so I'm not sure. Unclear. But then it goes west over here, and then the crow has the sphere in its feet, like attached to a string, and then when he lets go of the string, the ball falls to the earth and shatters. So like this sphere that would become Hawaii after the process is going on here, once we get back to the sphere, meanwhile the sphere that it basically got ejected, maybe even this is part of the string, and then the sphere rolls back, depositing its shell, and then depositing its inner shell as the Hawaiian Emperor Seamount chain, which, just like the Earth, has undercurrents or currents. Earth's undercurrents more so for Earth, and more so just like the hot and cold tracks through the islands that are connected as well through the connection points, and this all measures out appropriately. Like Hawaii, the main islands of Hawaii, were the inner surface of the sphere of this ball that broke apart into pieces when the crow let go of it. When the crow let go. Timely, maybe, because I gotta do that. Just be like, peace out, guys.